Okay, good evening everyone. I think we are live here. Let me make sure that my microphone looks like it is working. So I think we are live. Good. I'm starting a couple minutes early, but I'm kind of ready to go, so we'll just get going. So I probably should start off by showing you my setup. So let me bring that up here and show you. I'll have to get rid of this. There we are. Okay. And this is my setup at the moment. Up here I have a 6-inch diameter f4 imaging newt and a Newtonian, and the camera goes in the slot up top here. It's just a simple reflector telescope, but it does a great job. And I've got it riding on a Celestron AVX mount, an equatorial mount that's polar aligned, hopefully good and polar aligned tonight. We'll see how it works out. And I'm sitting right behind here. The big difference tonight is in front of the camera I have, well, a new coma corrector, but that's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is that I also am using a filter tonight. We got a pretty full moon, and so I'm using a filter tonight to knock down the moonlight and bring up nebula, and nebula specifically. And so it should make the sky darker and bring the nebula out, make it pop a little bit more. It definitely does have its challenges because it makes everything so much darker. I have to use much longer exposures to be able to see anything. And so those longer exposures mean we're waiting longer to see our images, and it also makes it longer to plate solve and all those other kinds of things. So anyway, it's all a new adventure for me to use a filter, but I figure if there's otherwise nice evenings that the only thing keeping me inside is the moon, maybe using a filter will solve that issue. Anywho, so right now we are on Vega, which is the star I used to set my focus. And so let's go into our Stellarium here. I think I gotta check my windows here. All the windows resized on me again, so I need to just make sure my windows are bent. That put it right back where I had it. I want you up there. Boy, just keeps going right back to where I don't want it. Come on. Put it where I want it, let go, and it goes right back to where I don't want it. Okay. So that's Vega. That is our star I used to set our focus a little bit. So let's go find our first target. Now there's a lot of nice stuff to see down around Cygnus. But I thought we could start with Elephant's Trunk tonight. Let's pop up here and maybe do a little bit of Elephant's Trunk. And then I'll get us started. Okay, like I said, everything runs slower. Hey, Greg. Everything is definitely taking a lot longer with the filter to resolve, plate solve, everything. So it's definitely adventure using a filter this restrictive. Of course, you're used to your really narrow band stuff, but I actually, you pretty much use line filters, right? You used your HA, I think, if I remember right. So anyway, this is my first foray with the filters, so it's definitely different. It took me so long to. I was trying to use SharpCap to do my polar alignment, and I was having to use 30-second. Let's see, start imaging. Yeah, I was having to use 30-second exposures just to be able to plate solve for the polar alignment. So it was definitely taking a really, really long time. Okay, let's make this go away, let's make that go away, and bring our enhancements in. Okay, and now we wait for them. So I'm doing 3-minute subs tonight. I think 3-minute subs are about all the patience I have. So I know if I did 5 or more, it would be, you'd be less noisy and more signal, but see how my guiding can do tonight. How are things in Vegas? It's just a little bit breezy here tonight, but just really light breezes. I was out playing with it for the first time last night, the filter that is, and it's definitely a different discipline. Let me start up the background music here too. Waiting for the subs to come in. It's a lot longer to wait for a 3-minute sub than a 30 or 60-second sub. But the L-eXtreme seems to do a pretty decent job. Just have to be a little bit more patient. Of course, compared to you, you're waiting for 10-minute subs usually, Greg, so 3 minutes is nothing for you. Alright, first sub coming in. Yeah, got the elephant's trunk in there. Colors balanced a little better. Pretty noisy it is, but that's the way first subs are. And I did actually experiment last night with doing a 5-minute sub. I played with 1, 3, and 5-minute subs last night, and seems like the longer you let it go, the cleaner the image is, the cleaner each sub obviously is, and a bit more rich and saturated. The colors are more rich and saturated, so So 5 minutes is probably, 5 minutes would definitely be better in some ways, but it's just so long to wait. I don't like waiting that long. But considering we're in blazing moonlight tonight, the ability to see this at all is due to the miracle of filters. I can knock all that bright moonlight down and just show you what you want to see. But it is a lot slower. It's not going to be like one of my regular EAA nights where we can put 10 minutes into an object and then move on. This definitely takes longer. Like I said in the beginning, even doing my plate solving for my polar alignment takes so much longer. I used to be able to, even take my flats. No worries. I've just been here yammering away at you. Guess you could listen to it on the replay. I was just saying that everything with the L-eXtreme filter, everything just takes so much longer. I'm finding it takes about 15 or 16 times. There was a bunch of noise went away there. It takes about 15 times, 16 times the amount of light collection to get the same amount of light. In taking my flats, normally without a filter I can use 250 millisecond, quarter second exposures to take my flats, to get the proper histogram levels to take my flats. I now need to use 4-second exposures, so 16 times longer exposures to get the same luminance level on taking my flats. So it's about 16 times more, just 16 times more exposure time, more everything required to collect the same amount of light, because this L-eXtreme filter is so restrictive. It just really clamps down and only lets two very narrow bands through, the hydrogen alpha and the oxygen 3. And yeah, it really, and it eliminates all other wavelengths, which is of course 98, 97 or whatever percent of all the visible light that we normally collect. So and so anyway, I'm finding it takes about 16 times. So even like when doing my polar alignment, I use the polar alignment procedure in SharpCap, and normally I use 1-second exposures, and that's more than enough. I was finding tonight even 15-second exposures were having trouble. So I had to go to the so basically I cheated. I used the guide scope to actually do my polar alignment, which was then quick and easy because the only thing it has is a UV-IR filter on it, and so that made it really easy to do. But yeah, this filter really cuts down on the light. I mean, it cuts down severely on the light coming through it, so everything just takes a long time. See how our guiding is doing here. Oh, down about 1, which is pretty darn good for an AVX. Not complaining about that. Alright, third sub coming in. Boink, and all the noise drops away and darkens and deepens. Yeah, well, for polar alignment, I always have the gain cranked. I have the gain cranked, and normally 1 second exposures. Of course, if I'm doing the polar alignment before it's complete astronomical dark, I do have to back the gain down, but normally I max gain when I do the polar alignment, and 1 second exposures, and I'm good to go. Tonight, max gain and 15 second exposures, and SharpCap was having a great deal of difficulty solving, plate solving the subs. So, but anyway, thankfully I have an external guide scope and guide camera, and so I can just cheat and use it to do the polar alignment. And given that it's attached to the same scope, it seems to work fine. I seem to have pretty round stars. Not sure what happened here, but yeah, things look pretty round, so I think we're doing good. So anyway, the challenges of using a filter like this, it's the L-eXtreme, not the L-enhance, so it's dual band, and it's 7, is it 7 nanometers? Yeah, if it's 7 nanometer dual band, that so it really clamps down, like 98% of the light that normally comes through unfiltered is eliminated, so it just takes a lot longer to collect the same amount of brightness. Do you need the L-eXtreme filter under your dark skies? If my skies are dark, absolutely not. But this basically is going to be my moon filter. You know, I get annoyed watching beautiful astronomy nights go by when the only problem is that there's a nice big old moon in the sky. So normally I just, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. When there's a moon in the sky, I don't do any imaging or anything like that. And now it's like, no. If I get a good filter that will, probably a dual band. I don't think even a tri-band. I think I'm going to stick to a dual band filter. And I can use that on gorgeous nights like this, where the only problem is the moon, and the filter will just clamp down and eliminate that. And so basically it's going to become my moon filter. And so I'll just be using it whenever I feel like doing imaging when the moon is out. So, but no, when there's no moon in the sky, I absolutely don't use any filters. I use a UV-IR filter on my guide scope, my guide camera, because my guide scope is just a simple little achromat camera, and the stars in here that you can see through my guide camera will be all kind of fuzzy, because achromats don't really they don't do well with UV and IR, the extreme ends of the visible spectrum, and so it throws them off a little bit. So, but other than that, just a simple UV-IR filter on my guide camera I usually run without anything, and I do just fine with it. But this way I can play on moonlit nights too. So, but now I just have to settle on which filter I want. And somebody was selling this L-eXtreme on the Cloudy Nights Classifieds a couple days ago, so I just snatched it up for a good price. And figured I'd try that, as I have done some, after I bought it, then I started doing some pretty heavy-duty research, and I realized this is probably not the perfect one for me. I think actually I'm probably going to be looking for an IDAS NBZ filter for mine, because these, the L-eXtremes, any of the Optolongs, don't work so well for fast optics. If you're much faster than about f5 or 6, the angle of the light cone, the angle of the light cone in a faster optical system actually eliminates some of your signal, and so it doesn't work nearly as efficiently, and so there are some losses in faster systems. And the IDAS NBZs are actually designed for faster systems, so I'm going to probably pick one of those up here in the next couple of weeks and just do a head-to-head shootout between the two and see which one I like better, and then sell the one I don't. And that will just be whoever the winner turns out to be will be my moon filter. Whenever I want to come out here and the moon is out, I won't let the moon stop me. I'll just throw a filter on there. I was out in the yard 2 nights ago. The seeing was incredible. I thought my guider was guiding on a hot pixel. 0.19 RMS. Average about 0.3. Yeah. CEM 70s. It's a nice mount. Darn moon, or I would have been out at a dark site. I might take that L-eXtreme off your hands when I get my 20. So I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah, if my NBZ does work better as it is, as my research indicates it will, for my faster scope, if it does end up working better, then I may just ship it 80 miles east here and put it in your hands. So, but we'll see what happens. There are other people who say the Optolongs do fine with fast scopes, so. But one of the guys on Cloudy Nights, Jim Thompson, he does a lot of scientific testing of a lot of gear and equipment, and he's an EAA guy as well, and so he's done a number of reports on the various manufacturers and the different models, different varieties of filters that they have, and he's even done comparisons between them. And one of his latest ones was comparing the L-eXtreme with the NBZ, with the Antlia ALP-T, etc., etc., and a couple other ones. And so he's very scientific, and graphs and charts and all kinds of data he collects. He is a scientist, and he does a great job with that stuff. So he just did a shootout between, well, among other things, the L-eXtreme and the IDAS NBZ, and the NBZ is pretty good. Actually, he ended up liking the Antlia best, but those seem to be harder to get in these parts, and a lot of people swear by the NBZ, so I don't know. We'll see. Shooting at f8, so the L-eXtreme will probably work well. Yeah, on your nice big frac, the L-eXtreme will do good. And I do have the 2-inch. I don't think I'm assuming you don't need bigger than the M48 size. I don't have the 1 1/4. I do have the 2-inch, so I'm assuming that will work for you. But yeah, it's the L-eXtremes. People under light pollution rave about them. So I figured, well, my version of light pollution out here is moonlight, so that's what I'm doing. Alright, so that's about 18 minutes. I think that's pretty good. I think we came out pretty well. Do one more color balance on that. I think it's pretty close, but there's the elephant's trunk. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's what I've got. Alright, well, let's see what's next. Where am I? I'm over here. One thing that I went to, I do want to get out here. Maybe I will try doing some of this stuff. Very close to the moon tonight. So I'm looking at between Sag and Scorpio, of course, and doing probably some of the yeah, the prawn nebula. Is not what I'm looking for. All kinds of goodies in here. Alright. Where are you, Lagoon? Probably staring right at it and just can't find it, so... Alright. Too low. Alright, let's zoom over to Lagoon. We'll try and do these before... Next target. Try and do these before they hit the meridian. Now I am going to need to put the shroud on. So it's basically pointing almost into the moon. Gonna have to oh yeah, got close. Got real close. Again, because of the filter, I have to use even my I can't really slow down to much less than 15-second subs. Alright. Well, I'm going to plate solve anyway, just for gits and shiggles, even though we can see it right here. But let's see how our plate solving doing. But now it takes me at least 15-second subs just to be able to plate solve. But it does it. 1 second used to suffice, but not with this filter. Yeah, Pac-Man. I could have done Pac-Man, huh? Well, we'll try Lagoon and see how this comes out. If it's just too close to... Unfortunately, the moon is like right in. We're just pretty close to being where we want to be tonight and all this beautiful stuff. Reality is in a few more nights, even though the moon will be fuller, this will be better. Alright. It will be better simply because the moon will have moved further east. So, but we'll get at least one of the pretty ones. And then we'll probably go back over. We'll do Pac-Man. We'll also do the Veil, probably East and West Veil, which are rising and are going to be soon in a pretty nice spot to do. So, we'll get those. Alright, so now the count is on. Still just a little bit over 1. That's pretty good for my little AVX. But we will definitely get some more goodies tonight. But it's because of this extreme filtration, everything just takes a long time to come in. Again, for those who weren't here at the beginning, this is my setup, which is a 6-inch imaging Newtonian, which is an f4, a little bit faster for imaging use. And tonight I've got the 533 stuck in the top, on top of a Skywatcher coma corrector, the Quattro coma corrector, which I just picked up a couple of weeks ago, and definitely improvement over my Beta MPCC for a coma correction, so I'm liking that. And screwed onto the end of that is my new Optolong L-eXtreme filter, which is allowing us to shoot in the moonlight tonight, but causing all of our stuff to take a lot longer to collect those photons because it's a very restrictive filter. And everything is riding on the Celestron AVX mount that's right here, and I'm sitting back here behind this computer talking to you as we speak. So that's my thing there. So wow, look at the RA doing some interesting excursions. Alright, how are we doing here? Alright, another 25 seconds to go. 30 seconds to go. 12 objects live in Mexico. They're all globs and OCs and Scorp and Sag, so no playing for me tonight. Yeah, not going to be able to get them very well tonight. In fact, I'm going to just see how this comes out. If it's too close to the moon, even with the filter, then I'll just bail, and we'll go back up. We'll go back up and do Pac-Man, and we'll go do the Veil and whatnot. Go up and do that whole area. Get away from the moon. But let's see how it comes in. Wow. Come on. Open. Yeah. Not too bad, actually. Color correction. Yeah, I'm a little low, but no worries. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Yeah, this will be good to stay on for a few minutes. And this is basically with the telescope pointing almost directly into at the moon. So definitely this filter clamps down a lot of light. But that's why we're having to wait so long for all of our subs tonight. But what's the rope for hanging down off the mount? The rope. Okay, so that is the East Heavy rope trick. Normally when you are shooting east of the meridian, they say to make the counterweight heavier. Whatever's on the east side of your scope, if you're going to be shooting east, you make the east side heavier. If you're going to be shooting west, you still make the east side heavier. You make the scope heavier if you shoot west. You make the counterweight heavier if you shoot east. You want the mount to always be weighted favoring the east side, so that there's no backlash issues. You're always riding on the same RA gear faces. And so you can either change your weights and your scope and your counterweight all the time, or you can do an what I would call an east heavy rope trick. And so basically it's tied off on the counterweight shaft, wrapped around 1.5 times in the easterly direction, and then down off this little pulley that I bought. So I just bought this pulley off eBay and mounted on a piece of block and have it zip tied on there. And then, so the rope just runs right over that, and then there's a coffee can down here. You can see that down there, which I have filled with bolts and nuts and stuff, and that hangs on here. And so what it does is, when you release the clutch for the RA clutch, the whole thing rotates to the east. And that's what you want. You just want enough weight on it so that no matter which way you're pointing, east side of the meridian, west side of the meridian, doesn't matter, you have a constant amount of weight pulling your scope slightly to the east so that there's no backlash issue, you're always on the same gear faces. And there's always just a light amount of tension, which helps your tracking. So that is what the rope is for. Hopefully that was somewhat clear. As an equatorial guy, I'm sure you you understood probably most of that, Greg. So, but that's what it's for. Okay, how are we doing here? Yeah, I think we're still good. Yeah, this is not coming out too bad at all. We need to have a little juice. There we go. You might be able to improve your guiding by adding more counterweights and raising them up higher on the shaft. Yeah, yes. Raising the counterweights up, more weight. The closer you have your weight of your whole system to the axis of rotation, the easier it is to move it around. And so I have things kind of spread out a lot. What some people do is they'll get two weights and just move them much higher. So it'll have the same effect, but everything is closer to the scope. Another thing that most Newt imagers do, which I can't because my scope is too short, is they actually have the focuser pointing down instead of up. So the camera's upside down most of the time, which of course the camera doesn't care. And so if you've got a longer Newt, what most people do is put the whole camera, focuser, all that apparatus again down here, so it's right near the axis of rotation, which means it's less of a moment arm swinging around when you move the scope around. So yes, people with larger scopes do that. I don't do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, because in order for this to be down here, I would have to move the scope so far forward that there's no hope of balancing it without adding a ton of weight on the back of it, which kind of defeats the purpose. And number two, this whole thing only weighs about 14 pounds, maybe 15 pounds in total, which is half the weight rating of the mount. So I'm not worried about it being able to swing my little rig around, even with the counterweight all the way at the bottom. So, but yes, point taken. People with larger rigs, they do. You try and keep as much of it compact in close as you can, and try not having it splayed all out like I do. But on my little thing, I think it works okay. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, this is the L-eXtreme does a pretty good job. I was wondering how it was going to do pointed this close to the moon, but it seems to be. Of course, the lagoon is a big bright nebula, so it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, which is why I really wanted to at least shoot it tonight. But you've never heard of that rope trick? Yeah, I learned that. I learned the East Heavy rope trick on that, and that's my word for it. I don't know. I don't think that's what they actually call it, but anyway, that's what I called it. And I learned about it on Cloudy Nights forums, of course. Some people, someone from the Los Mandi community came up with that, because on the Los Mandi mounts, they actually have a face, a round face on the front of it, where that makes it really easy to do the rope. With the AVX, it was a little bit more difficult. You can see the RA clutch is kind of right there, so you're going to have to squeeze the RA clutch lever past the two ropes. But as long as they're flat on there, it works okay. Yeah, they actually one of the guys, one of the Los Mandi guys, users just from the user community, developed it and came up with the idea and tried it, and sure enough it worked. So I saw that and said, maybe I can make that work for my AVX. So that's where I came up with that. I mean, ideally, now that I know it works, and it seems to work pretty well, I would probably replace the rope with a much thinner, maybe rubber-coated cable. That would be just much smaller, thinner, stronger, lighter, and just be more out of the way than this fat old rope. But I don't know, it works so well. If it ain't broke, I'm usually too lazy to fix it. So Yeah, that's coming out pretty darn good for shooting straight into the moon on a 3/4 moon night. It's coming out pretty good, indeed. So, the L-eXtreme, I mean, they're saying on fast systems there is some loss on a system as fast as F4 with the L-eXtreme. Well, some people say there is, some people say there isn't. But supposedly there's a little bit of loss, and it's mostly in the hydrogen alpha range that there's loss. The NBZ filter, which is designed for fastroscopes, it doesn't have that loss in the HA range, but it's also just a less restrictive narrowband. The L-eXtreme is 7 nanometers for each of the O3 and HA, whereas the NBZ is 12 nanometers. So it's just a fatter curve. It just lets in a bit more of the spectrum around both things. But in doing so, it's not a problem for fast systems that are F5 and faster. So, but I think the L-eXtreme even here is doing pretty good. So, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I've been hearing, people have been raving about it for a long time. And mostly people in light polluted areas have really been raving about it. So, I have ignored it up to this point because my mindset was, well, I don't have any light pollution, so what do I need a filter for? And I've tried filters at various times, you know, during dark of the moon, and all they did was slow everything down. They didn't really improve my image quality because I don't have any light pollution to fight. So I just, you know, that was just my mindset. I don't need a filter. I don't want a filter. But then I started thinking here really recently, there are times when I have light pollution in the sky. It's called the 2 weeks where there's moon in the sky, and so what I always do with my imaging is I'm 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, you know, no biggie. When the moon's not there, I do imaging. When the moon is there, I don't. I do another hobby, whatever. But there were a lot of times when a gorgeous evening for astronomy would go by simply because there was a moon in the sky, and I'm realizing that is my light pollution. So let's pick up a good restrictive narrowband filter such that I can come out and play on moonlit nights too. So this is my answer to that. No, doesn't really work on galaxies. Galaxies are very few filters at all work on galaxies because galaxies are complete broadband. They're full spectrum objects. You know, they're starlight. So filters in general don't work on galaxies very well. Even UVIR filters knock galaxies down a long way because galaxies transmit so much in the IR band. But no, it would really kill down a galaxy. The best place for filters like this is emission nebulas. Even reflection nebula doesn't work. Star clusters, you know, it's not going to work for that stuff. You can even see in, like, if we just look at a star field, there's no real color in any of the stars. Most of the stars don't really have much color. We've got a little bit of a red one there. There's walking noise there from the camera. But you don't see blue stars. You don't see much yellow stars. And most everything is just red shifted, because the filter is again blocking 98% of the light spectrum from everything, including the stars. So You know, you can see star clusters, but a lot of their colorful beauty is gone because the filter is knocking down so much of the light spectrum. So really the only thing this works well on is emission nebula. So on moonlit nights you put on your big old restrictive filter and play with nebulae. I've never tried shooting a galaxy with a filter, so yeah, it doesn't surprise me that some of the closer ones will probably, yeah, like Andromeda, Triangulum, some of the closer stuff probably will, but 99% of the galaxies are so far away that not much comes through except full spectrum stuff. So anyway, all right, cool. Now I'm gonna, so there's Lagoon. That came out pretty nice, I think. Do one last histogram check, but I think it came out pretty good. Stretch that sucker even a little bit more. Yeah, I think she came out pretty good. You got the Bach globules started popping here. All those dark nodules in there. They all started popping. Cool. Alright, well, let's run up the line here. Next target. See how Trifid comes out. Now Trifid is an interesting target because it's all three types of nebulae. Reflection, emission. I just lost what the third one is, but anyway. All three types of nebulae are in this one. So we'll see. The L-eXtreme does not so good with the oxygen because I'm on a fast scope. So we'll see how much blue comes through with the L-eXtreme. I won't need to plate solve this. There we are. Okay. Start imaging. Okay, and we're off to the races. See how Trifid does. Pix Insight, ew, that's one of those AP things. I don't touch that stuff. Yeah, what a lot of people do, if they're going to collect data using a really tight narrowband filter like this, they will also capture data unfiltered just to get the stars, and then combine them and then bring those all together so that they can have the nice colorful stars and then the nice popping galaxy nebula contrast as well. Yeah, my RA is about 3 times what my deck is. Meh. Boy, the RA is all over the freaking map. Good times and bad times. Come on back to Papa. Look at you. Going all over the place. Oh well. Yes, you did see my gain is set to 300. I'm still an EAA guy, so I know you'd have your gain a lot lower. And if I wanted to do even longer subs, I probably could too. I don't know where Unity gain on the 533 is. Probably somewhere in around the 100 to 150, somewhere like that. that rope tugging on things. Nah. That rope trick is magical. Now that is me sucking up all the deck backlash from the slew. That's normal. This AVX has so much deck backlash that it's too much for PhD2 to even measure. So at the end of every slew, for the first 30 seconds or so, it's sucking up all that deck backlash, and then it reels it in, and then it's fine for a while. Yeah, that's where things generally tend to go up. Anyway, the heuristic algorithm that I'm using for the RA is it benefits from me doing these really long subs and spending more than 10 minutes on a target, because as time goes on, it'll start high, but then this will just be dropping and dropping and dropping, and so over the next 15 minutes, as we spend a lot of time on the object, the heuristic algorithm will dial it in better and better and better, and those numbers will just keep dropping as we get it's 100 on the 533. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Now, if I was doing multi-hours of data and really long exposures, yeah, unity gain is totally worth it. But I'm still too much of an EAA guy, so I still want to keep the gain up a bit, because I really don't want to do 5-minute plus subs. I really, really don't. Just don't want to do them. I'd rather have more noise than catch a little bit of this. This is, I think, the little bit of lagoon down there. A little bit of the... Well, we do catch some of the blue here. Just a little bit of the oxygen here. Just a little bit. And we'll see as we pull in a few more subs how it now as I get higher and higher here, each of these objects, I started on the lowest one, which was lagoon. Now I'm going to work my way up. We'll do Trifid, and then we'll do Eagle, Omega and Eagle, and as we work our way up, we actually kind of point more into the moon, sorta. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But so far, the L-eXtreme is doing a pretty good job keeping the dark grounds black, keeping the backgrounds dark. There, that's what I was trying to say. I knew it was in there somewhere. Second sub incoming. Watch the background darken and the noise disappear. Boink. Cleans up and noise goes away and everything else gets brighter. okay. The blue is an oxygen. Well, and that explains why it doesn't show up very well. Because the L-eXtreme is really about emission nebula. Actually, I think most nebula filters are. They don't really get reflection nebula very much. Emission in oxygen, emission in hydrogen alpha. And that's why it doesn't show up very strong. Yes, it does. And that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to trying the NBZ, because it lets through a lot more of the blue. A lot more of the blues and greens. The L-eXtreme does really well for the rich red colors. The NBZ does allow more of the blue and green colors. So, but again, it's not as tight a narrowband. It's 12 nanometer narrowbands instead of 7 for the L-eXtreme. So it just lets more light through, period. So you get, as compared to the L-eXtreme, the NBZ will give you more stars, a little bit more star bloat, and a little bit lighter background sky, whereas the L-eXtreme really clamps down. Hey Joy, thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. Hope your night's going well. Hope little Nico is sound asleep already. But the L-eXtreme does really good at making the background sky dark and cuts down a lot on the star fields that are in there, so you get to see it just makes the emission nebula pop a lot better. But it has to cut down a lot of light to do that. So it makes other things more difficult, like plate solving and whatnot. Everything takes a lot more time to collect the same amount of light because it's such a restrictive filter. But this isn't coming out too badly. Our little Trifid nebula here. Thanks for stopping by, Greg. I appreciate you being here. Maybe some of the other people will step up and be a little more chatty. But thanks for chatting with me as always, and see you next time. And whenever you have your live streams, make sure to send me an email. We never have figured out why I don't get notifications from YouTube, even to folks I'm subscribed to, and the bell is rung and blah blah blah, and I still don't get an email. So be sure to send me an email when you do yours, and I'll jump on. In the meantime, sleep well. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, who knows? This filter may wind up in your hands if I like the NBZ better, because I think this will work well for you in your Bortle 9 skies there in Henderson. Cool. See you, Greg. So for Joy and anyone else who got here late, this is the Trifid Nebula, which full spectrum looks like this. It has the red emission part and the blue reflection part, And it also has darker areas that are dark nebula. So it's all three types of nebulas in one nebula. But the filter that I'm using to knock down all the moonlight, because basically the telescope is pointing almost straight into the moon right now, and if I didn't have it in there, it would be just completely blown out. But the filter is so restrictive that it cuts off everything pretty much except the emission nebula stuff. You can see there is a little bit of the blue here of the reflection nebula, but just a little bit of it. But the red part, the emission part, really pops nicely. So, really pops out nice. Forget how far away the Trifid is. I think it's about 4,000, 5,000. Trifid nebula. I think it's about 5,000 light years away. Discovered by Charles Messier on June 5th, 1764. Its name means three-lobe. The object is an unusual combination of an open cluster of stars, an emission nebula, which is the red portion, and a reflection nebula, which is the blue portion that we can't really see very well with this filter, and a dark nebula. The most massive star that has formed is mass more than 20 times the mass of the Sun. This star is surrounded by a cluster of approximately 3,100 young stars. They investigated it in 1997 with the Hubble. Stellar jet protrudes from the head of the cloud. It's about 3/4 of a light year long. Huh. It is centered about 4,100 light years from Earth. So about 4,000 light years. About 4,000 light years away. But it's a pretty one. I'm going to zoom in a little more here. Definitely very, very red. I think it's definitely more red than when I shoot it unfiltered. But that's because I'm spending more time on it, taking much longer subs, and the red of the hydrogen alpha is the only thing that's coming through. So it's going to be nice and deep. Cool. Okay. Next target. Let's go to... There's a Sagittarius star cloud. And the Omega. The Omega Nebula. And this is going to take a few seconds to catch up, but it should be pretty close to in the view. Yeah. We're getting up a little higher. This might be a little further away from the moon, maybe. Let's see if I can move this. Blah blah blah. Click to recenter. Yeah, let's kind of put it down. I'd like to have maybe like this be the center. Yes. We'll have that be the center. Just have it come up a little bit higher. Which of course takes time, because our subs have to be much longer. Because of the filter. Okay, I think we're good to go there. That should give me what I need. So we'll start the imaging. All right, now we wait 3 minutes for our first sub to come in. But that's what it's going to look like. We'll see what we got. In the meantime, I'm going to go refill my water glass, so I'll be back in a minute. first sub incoming for Omega Nebula. And the blacks are really clipped. But we can fix that. And we can adjust that. Which means we have to again adjust that. That's pretty good. I guess we could have left it down where it was. I thought there was more to it down here, which is why I moved it up, but apparently how we had it was about right. The Omega Nebula. Omega Nebula, also known as the Swan, the Checkmark Nebula, the Lobster Nebula, and the Horseshoe Nebula, is a hydrogen beta region in the constellation Sagittarius, discovered by Philippe Lois de Chazeau in 1745. Charles Messier catalogued it in 1764. It is by some of the richest star fields of the Milky Way, figuring in the northern two-thirds of Sagittarius. Yes, now, when I normally image this unfiltered, it's got a lot of stars around it. And so one of the things this filter does is knock down a lot of the stars, makes them less fat, and kind of knocks the stars down a little bit. In fact, I should see if I've got... It'd be interesting to compare this to... let's see. Omega. December. Omega Nebula. Yeah. See how. Don't remember when I got this. But this would be unfiltered. So, see, there's a lot more stars in there. It's kind of hard to compare the two because they're zoomed in very differently. But the colors obviously are very different. But there's a lot more stars in this one as opposed to the one coming through the narrowband filter, which knocks a lot of the stars down. But this is in a very rich star field. What is the date on that? Oh, October of 20. I thought there was one. See, this says 12/26/2021. But then this has a date of October of 20, so that was a couple of years ago. That must have the 12/26/2021 must have been a day when I was I transferred these files over to this computer or something because they're all the same. Because these are all from 2020. I thought I'd gotten these more recently than that, but apparently not. Alright, how are we doing here? I think we're doing pretty good. crispy stuff. A bit more of the extended nebula. The Omega Nebula is between 5,000 and 6,000 light years away, so about 1,000 light years further away than Trippin. It spans some 15 light years in diameter. It's considered one of the brightest and most massive star-forming regions of our galaxy. Its local geometry is similar to the Orion Nebula, except that it is viewed edge-on rather than face-on. Okay. The open cluster, NGC 6618, lies embedded in the nebulosity and causes the gases of the nebula to shine due to radiation from these hot young stars. However, the actual number of stars in the nebula is much higher, up to 800. 100 of spectral type earlier than B9, and 9 of spectral type O. It's also one of the youngest clusters known, with an age of just 1 million years. Luminous blue variable HD 168607 in the southeast part of the nebula is generally assumed, so I think that's this one here, is generally assumed to be part of it. And again, we can't really see blue because one of the things the filter knocks down is star colors. So the stars don't really have much in the way of color when using this filter, but that is the price you pay for wanting to image in a brightly moonlit night. Closer. Let's see how our guiding is doing. We're down under 1.5. Oh, the deck made a little excursion north. Seems to be coming back to Earth, though, for the most part. Let's see how close we're getting to the meridian here. Well, we still got a little ways to go. Good. I'd like to just look at Eagle last. I'm interested to see Eagle and the Pillars of Creation and how that's going to come across. the guiding just went to heck in a handbasket here. I'm not sure why. Good thing we're pretty much done with this one anyway. So, that came out pretty nice. But yeah, the guiding just all of a sudden has disabled. I'm not sure why. But in any event, we're about ready to move on to the next target anyway. So, which is going to be Eagle. So let's go ahead and shut this one down. Next target. Okay. And we'll zip on up there. Make sure, check cables here, make sure everything's working good. Seems like everything is mechanically okay. There's our omega. We don't need a plate solve on that, so let's just start imaging. See what we get here. Okay, you're all good to go. Let's clear you. I'm not sure what the heck happened there. You can go away. Huh. Okay, for some reason my guiding is not working. What has happened here? Okay. Let's disconnect everything and just try restarting PhD. This is pretty wild. This is pretty wild. Okay, let's reconnect. Connect everybody. Start looping. Okay, let's go back here. Rerun the script. See what happens. Seemed to work, and now we've got guide pulses again. That was very bizarre. That was very bizarre. Well, unfortunately, it means we have to wait again for things to wait for a 3-minute sub again, but 2257. Yeah, that's the one that just, that's the one we just did. Going against the 2256. Well, I don't know. Anyway, all seems back to normal now. Okay. Well, 25 seconds to our first sub. There's our eagle. Not really sure why my declination is doing this craziness all of a sudden. But it looks like it's trying to come back on its own, so I'll leave it alone. But we may get some star ovaling on this one. So far everything's staying pretty round. Wham! Then all of a sudden it does that. Oh, that's pretty crazy. Take a look and see how that individual frame looks. Yeah. Easter egg stars. Yeah, that one is not good. It's doing that. I can see what Wikipedia has to say about the Eagle Nebula. Eagle Nebula. The Eagle Nebula, or M16, also the Star Queen. Star Queen Nebula is a young open cluster of stars in Sagittarius, Serpens, discovered by Jean-Philippe de Chazot in 1745 or 46. Both the Eagle and the Star Queen refer to visual impressions of the dark silhouette near the center of the nebula. An area made famous as the Pillars of Creation. Both the Eagle and the Star Queen refer to the visual impressions of the dark silhouette near the center of the nebula. So, in other words, where's my mouse? There it is. In other words, this looks like an eagle or a Star Queen. Whatever that means. And then these are where they are actually the pillars of creation. There's pillars in here. Not very clear. black is just all over the map on this. Yeah, well. Nebula is about 5,700 light years distant. Cool, well there's 18 minutes on the Eagle Nebula. And pillars of creation in there, which didn't come out very clear tonight. Focus may be slightly off, but zoomed out it all looks pretty good. Honestly, I think I am done for the night. I think that was a nice little run of some pretty bright objects. I think the L-eXtreme filter did pretty well, considering these last few objects were pointing almost directly into the moon itself while I was shooting them. I think we did pretty well. So, yeah, got some nice images made. So, but thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate you taking the time, and for everyone who's watching this recording later, thanks for coming by and watching my recordings. So, from the Death Valley region of California, this is Mike Jerry saying good night, everybody.